On this episode of Blending Bourbon, Dixon and I discuss Meyerden's dating issues and technology in the bourbon industry.
Blending Bourbon is the podcast that takes you beyond the barrel and behind the scenes of the whiskey industry with master blenders Dixon Dedman and David Mark Young.
Welcome back. Another episode of Blending Bourbon coming at you from Central Kentucky. I am Dixon Dedman of 2XO Whiskey, joined by David Mark Young of Omaha, Nebraska, master blender, owner, Golden Sheaf, and we've also got Meyerden McHugh. He said, "Guys, I got this one today. There's some things I need to know," and so this episode could be about Meyerden's recent, kind of dating struggles, the quote unquote slump he's in. I'm not really sure. He just had some things he said he needed to get off his chest, and we said we were here for him today. So.
Well, yeah. That a lot of that is true. The batting average is lowering as I reach 40.
Swing batter.
Yeah, so it's just like I came in far too late for the swipe right, swipe left, and then I mumble, so I don't know how Bumble would work for me either. So anyway, I had this
wow
concept.
There's so much to unpack there. Sorry,
The bumbler mumbler.
Yeah.
The bumbler mumbler.
I don't know. I mean, what's in Omaha? Like, is there like a part of Omaha, like a street or a part of town that's like that's where all the singles bars are. That's where you go, and when you're on the prowl. And if there is, do most of them have like mechanical bulls in them, or I would think there would be a lot of axe throwing. And is that big? I'm just.
Corn shucking, axe throwing, bull riding.
That's so stereotypical. I apologize. It's just
No, I wouldn't know, David. David, have you seen any of these out and about?
No, I'm not trying to.
Were they like barn parties? Do you go to barn parties?
Everybody goes out in the middle of a cornfield and
cow tipping.
There's a lot of all the above. Funny story. I've been in Nebraska 20-ish years, but as a kid, I was probably seventh grade, sixth grade. We were supposed to move to Omaha, Nebraska, and or there was mention of, hey, we're moving to Omaha. What the heck is an Omaha? What is an Omaha and what is in Omaha? But that was the jokes back then. It was, does everybody ride cows to school?
Listen, as someone from Kentucky, I feel like I can say that. It used to be, the joke was like, where do you go to like meet women? A family reunion? Those are the Kentucky jokes. It's like
that's a good one.
Yeah. So I feel like I can, I've heard them all. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but that's a classic. That's a good one. I like that one. Can you play a little banjo effect there,
I
Meyerden?
can play one song, but it's that one.
Ding ding ding. Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding. Yeah. Wow. Rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
What do you got for us, Meyerden?
What do you got? What's up? Tell me. You're in the trust tree.
Well, since
safe place.
Since technology has been failing me on the dating side of stuff, and not really representing myself very well in those platforms, I'm wondering how the technology in the whiskey world, because obviously, we're in the 21st century, and I assume that there's a lot of old traditions that are still applicable, that are still practiced today. But what has become new and innovative that has really helped you guys out on your side of blending?
I'm sorry, I only heard the first part of that question, but let me take this one, David. Your profile picture on all of these dating sites needs to be updated.
My profile picture?
No, it's Myerden's. It's like, yeah, his. I mean, your Tinder pic almost looks scary. Is that what you were asking?
Well, yeah. It's like, I just want to know if
you need to be like holding a puppy or something.
Instead of
axe down.
Yeah, put the axe down next to the felled tree that probably killed a endangered animal.
Right. Yeah. It's just there's entirely too many carcasses in that picture. It's not appropriate. No.
Is it just Halloween themed, or?
Is I did hear your question. David, your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, there's very little as a blender. So I'm thinking as a blender, right? It's neat to go into these new production facilities and see how everything's automated and there's so few human touch points and so on and so on. But my world is a lot of manual, pulling samples, drilling holes in barrels, closing them up with little spires. But I'm looking at this box here right in front of me, this digital hydrometer that is very handy, so just when it comes to proofing, blending, so blending up, finding the right flavor profile, but then taking it down to whatever desired proof or whatever proof matches my blend. That's something that's really not only expedited processes, but it's allowed me to be more efficient when it comes to the use of whiskey. I just use a drop versus a 750 ml graduated cylinder. But yeah, so I'm just thinking this is like I've just been doing some blending, so I've got all my equipment set up here and kind of looking at how things have improved in my short time, solidifying my processes and the things that I do. And this is just immediate, the blending aspect of it. There's also beyond that, a lot of my company and my experience here has been virtual, so there's a lot of technology involved in all of the things, but a lot of that's just computer or paperwork, digital type of things. I don't know. What do you got, Dixon?
Yeah, I don't know that I have blended anything differently from the actual act of blending than I did when I started blending things. It's not it's not all that. I don't know. I guess I only know one way to do it. I think that technology has certainly impacted a lot of things in terms of marketing and that aspect. You used to be a lot of the general sales meetings I do for our like a state sales team, and I don't know. Friday I did one, and Zoom puts you in front of 130 people that work for our distributor in Washington State, and that you talk about that making things easier, and it's not I'm not saying it's better, because in person is better, but that's different. Social media, getting all the photo shoots and the reels and the videos and your ability to kind of mass market digitally is a lot different than when when I started, and even, well before that. I think, probably my guess is kind of what one of the things you're getting at is, how is the industry changing in terms of opening up opportunities to do different things with your liquid that then give you the opportunity to blend different things.
Right.
And I was when I started to create our program, as I've said many times, I wasn't going to take somebody else's juice, put it in my bottle, and say it was mine. And when we first started double barreling, that process, people looked at me like, wait, you want to take the liquid out of that barrel and then we're going to pour it into this barrel? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. And they're like, well, it's already in a barrel. Why the hell would you want to put it in another barrel? And it's like, well, I'm trying to change the profile of this. And we weren't the first to do it. And I think, probably one of the most successful brands to take a cue from Scotch and that world was Angel's Envy, who started their program by introducing their liquid into port barrels and rum barrels for the rye. It was the first kind of large scale that I know of American whiskey. But when I said, well, I want to do that, but I want to do it in a new barrel the second time. And everybody's like, what the hell are you thinking? It's like, well, that's where we're going with it. And it's obviously it's become a lot more common. And then, there are things going on. The company that I work with out of California, to create these oak chains that we insert into the barrels. And, I kind of came up with that idea, worked with them to develop it. But if you had asked me about that 10 years ago, I'd say that's kind of insane. And then you look at what Makers did with their 46 and introducing more staves into their barrel. And it's like, okay, we're looking for more surface area. And I just had my team here, and we were talking about, I tested a lot of things before we settled on what we're doing with American Oak, and we tested essentially different percentage equivalents of new charred oak, and so I did 100. There was one we tried. It was a 200% equivalent of the surface area of a new barrel. So the chain of oak was 16 feet long.
Wow.
We got about 12 feet of the chain in the barrel before it displaced liquid and there was no more room for chain.
Right.
So that was not one we looked at. But, it went back and forth. Where we're at now, what I settled on is I wouldn't say proprietary number, but I'm not going to disclose the number that we used because we're already having people interested in that program. But the first thing I got was this like cheesecloth with little cubes in it. And I said, well, that's just not going to do. That's not going to work. Let's look at this chain thing with the chain, whatever. And then looking at different types of new oak to put on that chain. We're launching the French oak, but a lot of these companies that you see, Amburana, or however you say it, is kind of the buzzword right now. But Mizunura, they're doing something similar. It's a chain or pieces of this that are dropped into the barrel, and that I think that's kind of an innovative new technique. And then one that they're doing, and this all kind of goes back to one of the things that they developed, and we may have talked about this before, but they developed for the wine industry when they were making, everybody, when Chardonnay became such a big thing, it was oak Chardonnay or unoaked Chardonnay. And it's like, okay, you get more money for the oak Chardonnay, obviously, because it goes in a barrel and it has to age and they can't get it to market right away. And this company said, well, instead of putting the Chardonnay and the oak. Well, we took all this Chardonnay and put it in stainless steel tanks. And we could put chips of oak in the tank and it would still be an oak Chardonnay. And they're like, yeah, that's great. And so the next idea they had was like, okay, well, how do we speed this up? And so they basically started taking almost like the thing that's in your fish tank that shoots a blast of water in there to kind of oxygenate the water for the fish. They would stick that in the tank, and it would shoot these blasts of oxygen in there, which would agitate the liquid, which would cause it to interact with the oak, and it sped up the process. And now, I mean, they have, and you know, I've consulted with brands that do it, and taking a barrel, right, just filled right off the still, new make in a barrel, putting a bag of charred oak into the barrel, and then a tube that shoots a blast of, they call it micro-oxing, a blast of air in there every 15 seconds, with the idea that 3 months of that makes the product taste like it's a minimum of 4 years old. It's not my jam. I'm not doing it, nor am I going to do it, because it's still effectively 3-month-old whiskey. But you know, there's everybody. I mean, I've seen the small barrels and the pressure chambers that moving in and out of the barrel in 30 days. I've seen, you name it. I mean, there are all types of things available to you now that were unheard of 6, 8, 10 years ago, that allow you to develop a liquid in such a way that if you wanted to, you could blend it into something that you thought was a good product to take to market. Right. That was a long rant. I'm sorry.
That's interesting. So like in simpler to kind of summarize your answer there is if these new innovations, just because it can make something that's equivalent to a 4-year or whatever.
Well, that's what their salespeople will tell you. I'm not sure that. You know.
Like that'd be interesting to taste. Like if there is a way to, it'd be like, hey, here's an actual 4-year. Here's you know, try to do a blind taste test to see if you could tell a difference.
Oh, yeah, I mean, another one that has been around for a while, but it was that, like, the Solera process, you know, where I don't know. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things. I personally, for me, for the brands that I've been a part of, for, you know, what I'm doing, you always think about it like a page in one of my kids' coloring books. And I want to stay well inside the lines that define what is Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Like I want to stay well within inside those lines. You know, with what I always try to do is to figure out a way to color with a little different crayon than everybody else is using. And you see a lot of people that are proud. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You know, well, I do, but I don't. But you know, you see a lot of people that are proud and actively carrying the flag of someone coloring completely outside the lines. Right. And you know, so I'd like to think of myself and our program as being, you know, very, you know, traditional in the sense that we're not doing anything that is controversial. We're just doing things a little bit differently.
Yeah, different crown. Yeah. Yeah, in you know, there's so many different categories, different tiers. But where was I? It was Trader Joe's yesterday, and you know, I'm always curious about some of those branded sourced whiskeys, you know, Trader Joe's brand bourbon, and it had a statement on there, aged at least 6 months old, which means that the youngest bourbon in there is 6 months old. I would venture to guess that a lot of the liquid in that bottle is 6 months old, which, there's people that buy it. Clearly, there's a use for it. I just, we're in a different category, and I mean, to me, that's kind of, you're kind of selling the product short. I mean, there's always going to be a demand for that. There's going to be a need for it. It's kind of a mixer or whatever. But to me, once you taste a good quality, mature whiskey, you don't want to go back. Like a lot of good things. And I don't know. I just feel like that should be. I guess you don't know what you don't know, right? I remember coming of age, being old enough to legally drink and drinking whiskey and not really thinking that it was bad, but it wasn't good. And then until I had tasted good quality whiskey, really didn't know any different or try to. But now that things are changing, there's definitely been an increase in high quality whiskey demand. Now that people are getting a taste of that, it's also a culture, it's a way of life, and that's why there's such a high demand for it. Is because more people want to be sophisticated. There's that sophisticated allure of drinking high quality whiskey, and I just think it's interesting how it'd be interesting to look at those numbers on sales of the lower age whiskeys compared to some of the middle and upper tier products, and just see what that demand looks like. I think it's definitely increased. It goes back to that sophistication. People are more sophisticated. People are have a heightened sense of awareness, and therefore want better than just entry level bottom shelf stuff.
When you guys are sourcing and whatnot, I could understand that the rickhousing, the rickhouses have probably improved a lot. It's no longer just throwing in the building with the racks and stuff. I'm sure that there's some sort of, they keep an eye on the internal climate of those rickhouses, I would assume, right? So, do you lean more towards the traditional side, or how much does of their ability to control the climate inside of rickhouses really affect your approach or their approach to you, or whether or not you're going to source it or not, or have them supply it to you or not?
Yeah, I mean, all those things are, that's a rabbit hole I could go down. But and it's funny too, because I've seen all these things, right? Like at one point, I got offered an opportunity to kind of invest in this company that was creating this like chip, this like microchip that you would insert into the barrel, and it would apparently tell you the specs on each barrel, temperature fluctuations, evaporation, how the proof was changing, but also send you an alert if the barrel started leaking out or whatever, and which it's kind of like when people always say, I don't know why they don't put a chip in like golf balls so you can find your damn golf ball. And it's like, well, makes sense. The golf ball companies don't really want to do that, because then you'd only be playing with one golf ball, and they'd have to sell that technology for it. But anyway,
right.
I don't think it. It was probably too expensive an idea for the millions of bourbon barrels that are in the out there. I do. It's funny. A lot of producers use the different microclimates in their facilities. They use them to their advantage to create different products. So there are distilleries that take one mash bill and put it in identical barrels, right? And then they put them in all these different rickhouses, and all these different rickhouses have different microclimates, and they have a recipe that says, barrels from these tiers of this rickhouse, and these tiers of this rickhouse, and these tiers of this rickhouse, when combined and put at this proof, they give us the profile for this particular whiskey. That same barrel that started out the exact same way, the bottom of this rickhouse and the middle of this rickhouse and the bottom of this rickhouse go together, and when combined and put at this proof, they give us a very different whiskey with a very different flavor profile. That's what I always talk about. Distillation is very important. For me, I would say, it's in terms of creating a good product. Distillation is somewhere between 20 and 25%. Maturation, understanding maturation and how that liquid develops in the barrel, in the rickhouse. That's 70-75% of making a good product. And because of that, if you think that these multi-billion-dollar corporations are just putting barrels in a big building and saying, okay, we'll let Mother Nature take over for 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and then saying, yep, it worked, or no, something's off.
Yeah. Then
you're out of your mind.
Right.
And the reality is that, these are investments. These are their investments that they're putting away, and they're going to monitor and they're going to protect these investments. And that means, they want barrels in this portion of the rickhouse to get to a certain proof point, whether that's up or down. They want to retain more liquid, and so they want less evaporation, or we want more oak exposure, so we want hotter climates. We want to monitor that with, or check that sometimes with, adjusting the humidity, and whether how much how much water we're taking into the barrel or whatever. So it's these are very sophisticated aging facilities, not like, yep, we're just putting it in the shed and we'll see what happens to it in a few years.
Back in 10 years.
I found this in a barn in Nebraska.
Yeah,
like
because,
all those old cars.
It's funny, and I feel like but let's use what's one? I mean, the best example is Sazerac, is Buffalo Trace, right? Because when everybody thinks about Buffalo Trace, you're thinking Pappy Van Winkle, you're thinking George T. Stagg, they're thinking Eagle Rare 17. They think all these things. Well, the reality is that I would say on if you just looked at cases, the top tier brands that everybody that you think of when you think that's probably less than 10% of the cases of whiskey that they sell. It's Buffalo Trace, it's Eagle Rare, it's whatever, and so if and those have to be consistent. The Buffalo Trace you buy today has to taste like the Buffalo Trace you finished last night. And you can't just leave that up to Mother Nature. They have to, and that's made a big difference.
That's
now
not
that
just
they can
dumping barrels. That's not, okay, it's time to harvest some Buffalo Trace. Let's roll out 100, 2,000 barrels and dump it and just bottle it. You're right. It's from this part of the rickhouse or the other side of the lot, or wherever, to be able to. That Sherry Moore talked about that from Jack Daniels, about her team at the time, 50 different tasters at 36 rickhouses, and everybody knew what part of the rickhouse produced what flavor profile and what it took to get it to Jack Daniels standard. And it's just a lot of work, a lot but technology behind that, I think, is kind of where we're going. What I think that's what we started talking about. Yeah. Technology has improved the control.
And that's another one. I mean, it's like, it used to be, you go in those old rick houses, right? And there's in the corner, it's always cool to see. I always look for them. The old school scales.
Yeah.
Like with weights that you would add, and so they would pull a barrel down, put it on the scale, weigh it, and that would give them the ability to know, okay, these are getting too hot, we're getting too much loss, and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was rudimentary to a certain extent. I mean, I'm sure they had the ability to test the proof. A lot of it was probably, some guy whose job was to be like, yep, that one's too hot, or that one's, but
that one burns.
Yeah, not that they couldn't figure that out then, but it's so much different than now, where you go in there and, they can kind of, simulate what that's been like, and get a guess on the volume. As David said, you drill into one, you take a 200 ml sample, you've got a digital, boom, you stick it in there, it gives you the proof, all that stuff. That's changed things. And then, how they can monitor, it used to be is like, this rick house is getting too hot, open the windows.
Right.
It's different now.
Yeah.
So if anyone is curious, they're wanting us to start off, hey, I want to, they're new to this. The more a rick house or someone that ages the whiskey, the more information that they have available on how they do it, probably the better the juice, more than likely. But it comes as you get better information, probably the cost of that sourcing that whiskey probably goes higher. Would you say that's a fair assumption?
Or it can actually increase or decrease. I mean, when you look at, it's all about capability, right? Capacity, volume. That's a big factor. I think.
I think then on the price in terms of, and I, like I said, I quit. I haven't sourced anything since I was at my old job, but and helping people and whatever. I mean, a lot of the technological advances in distilling have made things cheaper or more expensive depending on what you're doing. Obviously, the whole setup is different now. I used to kind of shut down once a year and clean everything, and now everybody's stainless and sterilizing, and and after each run it gets completely wiped, and they're using all these chemicals to get this out and that out, and that's. But then their ability to to really be more specific about the temperatures, for example, as the grains are cooked at, to optimize their production value, the ability to kind of, there's some, you could buy a cheaper product in the barrel, but a lot of times that might mean that it came off the still at a really high proof point and was then cut down to a low proof point and entered into the barrel. So you've got, less of the congeners that make the distillate have a specific profile. You're basically buying barrels of highly diluted distillate, which can, if the person selling them makes more money because they're selling a lot more water than they are, so there's a technological factors on kind of all facets that make it, that kind of make somebody's price different from somebody else's.
Well, that just about sums up all my technological
tech questions.
Tech questions. I'm sure over the course of the next several months, I'll have some more. But that fulfilled my curiosity so far today.
Yeah, good talk. Always technology, things to leverage. One thing we didn't talk about was ChatGPT, even in marketing, that sort of thing. Really didn't go into a lot of, working with the marketing team. But yeah, we could go on and on and on. This is a great conversation to have. Perhaps we'll revisit another time to, and even get someone else that's,
somebody who's a lot smarter than us to talk about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, Martin, I think let's update these profile pics and kind of look at the bio information. And you might take out still lives with mom and things like that, but we can get there. I don't
know. That's stability, man.
We'll
run your profile through some ChatGPT, some artificial intelligence.
It just needs to say has a roommate. That's all. It doesn't. You don't have to disclose that it's your mom.
Cooks and does laundry.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. Great conversation, guys.
Yep.
That's
Cheers,
a wrap.
y'all.
Another episode of the Blending Bourbon podcast. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. Until next time. Cheers.